for our last speaker. Ernest Hemingway once said, "When people talk, listen completely. Most people never listen."
Alfred Brendel once said, "The word listen contains the same letters as the word silent."
Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak."
Our next talk is all about listening.
Natalia Romańska comes from Krakow, Poland, and is a big fan of a holistic approach to quality assurance, which starts from neatly designed processes. Privately passionate about planning shorter or longer trips, and crazy a bit about Friends, Harry Potter, and perfume industry.
Let's welcome to our stage Natalia Romańska!
And good luck.
Okay. Oh, I guess you can hear me now. So yeah, welcome everybody. I'm glad that you, like, maybe after a beer can come here anyway. So yeah, and thank you for the presentation. I think that one of the biggest pain when it comes to how do you feel is when you have a sense that you are not listened. We can observe that children are crying about this, teenagers are moving out from home, couples split, or companies break down. But at the same time, among other skills that we are practicing, active listening is not always perceived as something worth to practice, and as we are practicing, reading, writing, speaking other languages, and so on. So maybe let's start from the basics and have together okay. I'm not sure what should I pointing. Oh, right. Let's bake together a small cake basing on the active listening recipe. So what we will need at the very beginning? We should have the following ingredients, which are pinch of definitions, just to know what actually active listening is, how to use it, and so on. 1 ounce of explanation, how we can treat it, what are the benefits, what are the tricks or methods of active listening. Then we can add a few cups of tips and tricks how we can use it on a daily basis, no matter if we are working in IT industry or in our private life or wherever we want. And yeah, at the very big end, just to polish the whole taste, we can grab some spoons on the effect of the whole cake that we're gonna prepare today. So, step 1, let's preheat the oven. Active listening contains of 3 core elements. The very first one is to comprehend, which means basically to understand what someone has said. It sounds silly as something a bit obvious, but it's a bit trickier than we can think, and I will come back to this later. The next step is to retain, which means basically to memorize what has been said and be prepared for further response, which is under the respond point. So actually, again, we could think that okay, this is pretty obvious. That's all. Why do even bother about active listening? But let's take a closer look. When it comes to comprehending, usually we don't think that we are actually seeing or hearing something. It takes place, in most cases, unconsciously. And it may take place also from top down or bottom up listening strategies. What does it mean? If you are listening using top-down strategy, it means that in general you know something about the topic. And like you are adding extra points, glasses, puzzles, however you count it, to make a bigger building or bigger picture of you already know. When it comes to bottom-up listening techniques, you are actually totally new joiner about the topic, so you have to build this, I don't know how to say it, but you are adding piece one at the time. So usually we are mixing all of those techniques. But again, even at this point, at the very beginning, it might be affected by various stuff. For example, the very first one, also very often skipped when it comes to communication at workplace, is cultural difference. For some reason, or the way you are speaking in one culture might be perceived as something totally different in another one. At the same time, we have language barriers here. So again, if you are new at some language you are studying and you are not able to understand fully and properly what has been said, it may cause problems with what you memorize, what you understand, memorize, and then the way you respond. And at the same time, we also have differences between individuals. Like, we are all different. So depends, for example, on your personality, on your age, whether you are talking to the toddler who is 3 years old or to the retired professor of some super physics or whatever topic. It all may cause problems with memorizing and understanding what has been said actually, and then the full process of communication. Same when it comes to retaining. Actually, the same statement might be perceived and memorized in totally different way, but two different persons. It's the same like you are taking a picture and your friend is taking a picture standing in the same place. You will get the same frame, but your picture would be totally different because you have a bit different point of focus here. So, when it comes to retaining, if it's something related to your personal experience, it's a bit easier for you to memorize it because you already have some roots when you can connect what you already heard. But here we also can have some problems. For example, cognitive biases. When you hear something that only fit and make your opinion about the particular topic stronger, it again may cause problems in further communication. And also we here have a lot of distractions. Even you hear something, when you are distracted, it's a bit hard to memorize all the details that has been said during the whole speech or the whole communication. And when it comes to also, I forgot, also memory issues are pretty important here. It might be dementia, it might be, again, some issues when you are elder than the speaker who are saying, and so on and so forth. But not all people who are actually trying to hear, listen, and then communicate are aware of those factors. And here we have responding. So, ideally, as it said, it should present what you understand that has been said and somehow fit to the original statement. But again, usually it should, in ideal word, correspond with the intention or with the words that has been said by the speaker. But still, not still, but also at that point, we can have some problems, or it might be affected by various factors. For example, cognitive bias, conversational narcissism at first, because it's even more important. Have you ever heard about something like that? No, only one hand. So basically, conversational narcissism refers to the situation when you are in the middle of the talk with someone and you are sharing some information, thoughts, beliefs, whatever, but the person, instead of responding to you and like contributing to you, to what you actually have said, it's transferring the whole conversation to I. So you can show experience and okay, but I have this, and this, and the whole conversation transforms into the receiver instead of the speaker who started the conversation. And the second point here is mentioned before, cognitive biases, because when you are confirm your bias in the previous step, it's kind of a natural way that you are prolong what you understood in the further steps. So, how to deal with all of this? Is there any methods or tips, tricks, hacks, whatever, how we can address those issues? So let's start to mix the ingredients together and let's see what we will get. The very first and pretty obvious technique of active listening is facing the speaker. Again, it seems pretty obvious, but there is a lot of situation, especially when we, in most cases, actually, or at least I, work remotely. It's really hard to maintain an eye contact with a person that you are on call, or if you are with a group on some refinement or whatever meeting, when you are doing something in a separate tab, or like you see some notification on a phone and so on. Same with conversation face-to-face when you are offline with someone. So if possible, try to, at least from time to time, maintain this eye contact. It's a bit more important than many people actually can think it is. While facing the speaker and like being in the middle of conversation, it's also worth to mirror people's feelings. And at first glance, it might sound a bit like tricky, okay, like I will be doing like, okay, okay. It sounds fake. But if you are training yourself with mirroring feelings and trying to understand what actually the person is thinking, it will become a bit more natural and easier for you to read the person. Like, again, it might be not fully nicely described, but remember that words, it's not everything. Also, like the body language and the face expression matters when it comes to communication. Another technique is paraphrasing. So, again, if you want to answer in a proper way, try to somehow change the previous statement, but without like taking the essence. By that, you can also combine it with reflecting and clarify, especially if you don't understand something. It's always safer instead of like moving in totally different topic or assuming you understand even if you don't. Same with body language, or I'm aware that body language is not everything. And again, when we are working remotely in most cases, it's pretty hard to know what the person is doing if we cannot observe the full posture. But imagine a situation when, example, you are about to tell that you are not okay with something, and you are telling to your husband, partner, whatever, honey, I feel bad because of you did this and that, or you said this and that. But compare this with such statement. Honey, I'm not angry at all. Like the words that I used, like the receiver should assume that I'm okay, but like my body language and my modulation of tone and so on says something totally in opposite. So again, I'm not saying you have to be following the checklist, okay, mirroring feelings, reflecting, clarifying body language, but at least being aware of existence of such technique. Distractions also, if possible, is worth to limit them, especially when we are working remotely. The most common problem I have is that when I, again, see notification on a phone, there is some nice or important discussion during the call, and after a couple of seconds, I'm already lost and I don't know where we are. So if possible, try to limit those distractions as much as you can. If you have problems with staying focused, you can always use sticky notes for preparing some notes for you, or having some calm, I don't know how to explain it properly in English, but those little stuff that help you do something with hands if you cannot staying focused on the speaker. And yet another technique is withholding judgment. It's something that I would say especially useful when you are in the middle of the conflict. Imagine a situation that you are, maybe again with a partner, it's a bit more clear example here. You are in the middle of the argument, and actually when someone is explaining what happened or trying to provide you a feedback or didn't like something, when you're angry, somehow inside of you is starting to, okay, I will stop saying and I will interrupt and I will do on my way in the conversation. That's the most trickiest part, but if you let yourself calm down and stop assuming someone's intentions during the conversation, it may happen later that actually you didn't have the reason to be angry at your partner or at your colleague, at whatever. It's also a bit tricky when you, for example, has to deal something with a person that you don't like. We can, or people usually tend to, okay, I don't like him, so for sure that he used a shortcut just to offend me or something like that. Again, it might sound as something obvious, but if you are aware of this situation when you are in the middle of conversation or even training yourself each time, in the time it should help you to, again, avoid staying calm and maintain emotions and be okay with yourself during the conversation. And one of the last and pretty, again, someone might say obvious techniques of active listening is asking open questions. But what I've learned some months ago, actually, it also might be a bit tricky. If you are using question why, I'm not sure if it appeals to English, but let's assume it is. Referring to the situation that has happened in the past, it's very easy to become a prosecutor instead of a person who wants to know the essence of the problem. So if you are shooting someone with questions like, why did you do this, why did you do that, and why, and those whys, even though they are in their definition something good, again, beware of the situation that you are using it. And again, it's a bit easier to ask open question how, because you are somehow maybe not forcing, but you are encouraging the second person to answer you fully instead of are you okay? Yes. So it doesn't maintain the conversation, especially in the conflict. So now we have ingredients, now we had our oven prepared, so now it's the baking time, I guess. What we will get by using active listening techniques. Here you have a list of soft skills that I believe that are positively affected, sorry, the pointer, This is my personal list, but I fully believe if you want to be someday a good leader, for example, in the QA or in any other industry you are, you might be a technical virtuoso, but without soft skills, without being active listener and being aware of the people, you won't be a senior and you won't be a good leader here. Yesterday, we had a talk about training good leaders about this, and I fully believe that it should be part of such training. And again, if you are a better listener, it's easier to you to manage conflicts that appears in a team, in your private life, in a company on a C-level. If you are training yourself with active listening, and then you are actually automatically develop other soft skills, like being more empathic, being more adaptable in the company, because you are becoming, again, more aware that you are not like standalone person and we are all differ from each other. And actually, I fully believe that all of you can like prepare such list for yourself. Depends on the way you want to communicate, depends on your personality type, depends on the areas in communication that you have problem with. This is my personal list, and yeah, hope you find it somehow maybe inspired later. But if we have, even if we have really nice recipe for a cake, sometimes we may see that, okay, oven is broken, or we are missing some ingredients, and what to do in such situation. So what if? Here I have some questions that I got while preparing this topic few weeks ago, and I think that they are so important to even like spread it like for others. So what if you misunderstood something because using other words? So for example, British versus American English, or some slang, jargon, or whatever dialect you may have. Again, if you are aware of the situation, that something like that may affect your active listening, it's always better to admit that, okay, I didn't get it. You can use one of the techniques like reflecting and clarifying. What if the situation that you are think about yourself that you are an active listener, but you actually have a tendency to look somewhere aware, not because you want to be offensive to the person, but for example, it's easier for you to collect your thoughts. In such situation, it might be perceived as offended or that you are not listening. And again, what I would recommend in such situation is simply to admit, okay, I have a problem, let me think about it. Again, if you are paraphrasing and explain your body language or like the way you are reacting in such situation, it's always better than saying nothing and let other person assume that you are doing something. What if we have situation that someone is just shooting you by offensive questions, like those whys referring to the past? Here we have actually the matter of feedback, but I would say that it depends on the situation that you are getting. It's always better to stop the conversation and saying, how do you feel? But what is super important here, how do you feel because of the situation, not how do you feel because of the person. Without like, you are doing this or you are bad because of something, try instead of this, okay, I don't feel comfortable with such question or with such topic. Let's come back to this later. Let's pause, let's park a bit this conversation and come back to this while our emotions are okay. What if you are a buddy or a mentor to your junior colleague, and they keep saying that everything's fine, everything's okay, but you clearly see it's not. You cannot say that they are lying. Maybe they are shy, but they try to pretend that everything is okay. Again, you can use mirroring feelings, for example, when you are in the middle of the conversation. You can keep asking by showing your example that we are all were juniors once and we can have similar situation. You can be more human or more available to the person who is starting by showing some, I don't know, stories, that's finding some place that you will have a connection with those person. And what if you simply feel that you suck at some of like mirroring feelings or any other techniques? Well, the simple answer is even the awareness that you are not good at something, it's better at starting because you can know what is the area you should improve. You can beware or warn another person how it's gonna work with you, or just simply admit it. And it might be your priority when it comes to like developing yourself in the soft skills area. So actually, let's say we have a cake after this, and what I would like you to remember after my speech. Active listening contains 3 core elements. The first one is understanding what has been said, then memorizing it, and then responding. Like core basics, but for further development. Then try to just build your awareness, expand your knowledge among of this topic, without of treating it, okay, I have a checklist that I have to follow, that I mentioned, but rather as a kind of inspiration. Okay, soft skills are matter, so what can I do, what can I improve in my way of communication? And practice, simply. The more you do it, the more comfortable you will feel. It doesn't mean you have to use all of those techniques at once. Start from the one, and one at a time, and it will become much more natural for you to read, to understand what's going on. And basically that's it, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. We have time for a few questions, maybe 1 or 2. There's one. There it is.
No,
you're the second question, as you see. Oh my God, there's so many questions. So you don't want beer. Everybody who doesn't want beer to stay here for the questions. And no, okay. Let's hear the questions. This is more important for the beer. Who wants beer to go? Questions. I want questions.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for the speech. I guess the topic is often overlooked, especially in our everyday work. So the question is, out of these 3 core elements, that's understanding, retaining the knowledge, and responding, do you think, from your own experience or maybe from some statistics, I don't know, which is the most common, the most challenging, or maybe the easiest one to tackle?
Being the most challenging and at the same time being the easiest to tackle, I wouldn't say that any of those core elements are like that. I would personally say that the most challenging is the first one. When you understand something correctly, then it affects how do you memorize it and how do you prepare the response. There is a report, I cannot recall the name, but it says like around 70–80% of the time that we are actually communicating with others, we are doing stuff, this is communication, but among 55% of that time is actually listening. So if you start from proper understanding, it should somehow naturally, at least how I see it, help you with other areas, like one step at a time, not everything at once. Hope it answers your question.
Thank you. And lots of other questions, just ask them. There will be not t-shirts for all of you.
I will just throw later, so you have to.
Hi,
Fine.
thanks for
Yeah.
the lecture. My question is, do you have some tips when the other person is not giving you offensive questions, but just you can see that they're not actively listening to you?
I would just say it depends again on the situation. If you're having one-on-one with such person, I would just stop the topic that we are looking, and I would say, okay, I feel or I think because of your behavior, and describe the behavior, that you are not fully focused and you are not listening to me. I would like again to come back to the situation. You have to refer to the situation, not to the person. You cannot start for the, okay, you are not listening, because you are assuming in that way. You have to start from the communication, communicate I, or the message I feel like, or something like that. But when it comes to such situation in the meeting with other people, I would avoid doing something. You can try something entertainment to like grab the people's attention or the person's attention. But if it's not working, it's better to provide a constructive feedback after the meeting, at least how I see it, instead of like doing this among others, because like the person might feel offended.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
I don't see.
Can I
like,
just add something more to the answer, if you don't mind?
Yeah, sure.
Well, also some people have ADHD, and that prevents them on multiple occasions they cannot even understand because they cannot hear what people are talking. So most of their lives, especially in Eastern Europe, those people feel like losers because they just cannot hear. They cannot help it. So yeah, it's better to ask them later on.
Other questions?
I see lady here was like showing hand for a couple of times, but
Thank you for the lecture. I have a question regarding something that is overlooked, I think, is the age difference as well with different team members. What is the best way to handle those conflicts? Because sometimes due to their experience and due to their knowledge, they often don't listen.
that's tricky. But again, like first constructive feedback after all, or depends on the situation you are. And the second, I truly believe if someone is a great professionalist, great professional in some particular topic, the person should be able to explain it to you in the simplest words possible. So if they are really good at something, they should be able to sell it to you in an easy, affordable way. But yeah, like you cannot affect the people's like personality in the way how they behave. Feedback here, like it's good to train it, no matter if you are working or in your private life.
And one question from a man.
Hello, I have a question.
Hi.
Okay. During your presentation, you seem to have made a strong point about empathy, and empathy is strongly correlated with compassion, conformity, avoidance of conflict. Those are also strongly correlated by statistical distribution with the female gender. Isn't it a better approach to have a differentiated approach to males and females, which have often different expressions of their personality and traits, so we can work to their strengths instead of to their weaknesses. For not many men on average have very good scores in empathy, etc., etc. Your take on that, please.
Let me collect thoughts for a second. I think that the basic step is to being, from the speaker's perspective, aware of such differences you've mentioned. So, for example, the list that I presented, it's my personal that I highlighted. So maybe it's a bit easier to women to be like more empathic and like calm and have the natural like fling with empathy. But again, why do not train each other with such soft skills? So if you are good with empathy and, for example, like as a woman, and your partner is better at providing feedback and conflict management, why you don't cooperate? The same with colleagues. Like, you don't have to only teach others hard skills or like tech skills only, but also with soft ones, I guess it applies as well. But at first, you have to be aware of your weak and strong points here. So that would be my answer. I'm not sure if you are satisfied, but yeah.
Thank you very much. We have just 15 minutes left for our next beer break. You can continue asking questions, Natalia, in the beer break. And then we will wait for you for the closing ceremony, lightning talks, raffle draw, surprises, and so on.
And
so you have 15 minutes.
Some
We're waiting for you at 5.
And there is a t-shirt, some left, but okay, so, woo! Sorry. And the person who asked the question, whoa, whap. Yeah, thank you so much.